Please plug yourselves of your social media handles if you want people to have a look at you in your life after you're finished with your poem.
Thank you. I'm short, so I'm just going to do that because I never move the mic up and down. It's great to be here, and this is one of my favourite poetry nights, actually, because it's so down to earth and so real. And I love Brixton. I used to come to Brixton I lived in Brixton when I first left home, and I think Brixton might be my spiritual home. I've gone west now, but yeah, I love Brixton. And today I had a bit of an experience. I did a post on TikTok, which is obviously not the intellectual field to have debates, but about how the royal family are still benefiting from the slave trade that they invested in Elizabeth I. And for some reason, every time you mention that there's people still making money out of slavery, some person of a race I will not mention feels it necessary to go, yeah, but the Africans sold you, you sold each other. And I'm like, but wait, how is it my fault that you colonised me? And the amount of racism that appears every time you mention reparations or somebody taking responsibility for the fact that half the planet was colonised, it seems to push people's buttons. And I find that quite tiring, because if we can't actually point out what went wrong, and no one can fess up that they might have been descendant from the people who are benefiting still, we ain't going to get anywhere. So this, I'm only going to read one piece, and it's called NOC, which is a very upper middle class English phrase, which stands for not our class. And they will say things like, oh darling, not really NOC, when they're talking about people. And I suspect that's probably been said about me, which is, I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway, NOC. Poetry resides not in the annals of history or the corridors of power, sold into comfort by an annual stipend. Instead, it has its birth in the uncouth gutters wherein resides the pain in the soul of humanity. Through the horror of war and the agonies of deprivation, the need for poetry arises. And as the rising sound of the dispossessed bleeds into the deafening dominance of a dumbed down comfort culture that seeks only to replicate its own narcissistic vision of itself, so rises the shrill and callous howling of the powerful. See them baying like hounds for deference and humiliation as they set upon the bards and the seers, to create in the midst of destruction, to find art in the midst of hate, to speak out unabashed in the face of rage and ridicule. Such is the path of the poet. Those who speak of truth walk tall in the knowledge that it is indeed an honour to be so insulted. Backstreet dealers, fences, whores, gypsies, rent boys, thieves and all, slatters, squatters, scammers, wasters, fingersmiths and entertainers, problem children, mental cases and addicts occupy dark places, the alleys in between the status, not a shred of class between them, just a love of life and freedom, unkempt and uneducated, untrained, uninitiated, unaspiring, unclean, uncouth, untalented, unseen, unheard of, uncared for, underrated, misunderstood, misrepresented, on the fringes, on the edge, on the streets, off the ledge. Raise your voices, one and all. Stand united else we'll fall. Raise your voices, one and all. Stand united, else we'll fall. Thank you.